things I wish I knew before going to Anime Expo. Now, with that being said, I am no pro at Anime Expo. Last year was only my first year going, but with that being said, I was able to see it with non-biased eyes and realize what did not work for me and what did work for me. So to help you guys out to have a better experience, I wanted to share some tips. Hopefully this close to the convention, you already have your tickets, you already have an idea of what you're going to be cosplaying. I didn't say they were finished. I'm guilty as well of the con crunch. And maybe even know where you're staying if you're not from Los Angeles. But with that being said, one huge tip I would give is do not drive to Anime Expo. I'm from Arizona, and last year I planned going to Anime Expo too late, so I had to stay at a hotel that was about 25 minutes outside of town, so I had to drive, or so I thought. Unfortunately, I learned very quickly that I wish I had the option to just get out of my vehicle and go into the convention, since I got stuck in traffic for over an hour right beside it, just trying to get to a parking garage. Now, thankfully on day one, I found one that was still open. It cost $40, but it was right across from the convention, so I was like, perfect, I'm gonna do this every single day. I quickly learned that they do not stay open, they fill up very fast, and prices also will rise. Now, I know if you're a pro at Expo, you're probably gonna think this next statement is crazy, but I was new, I didn't know. So by day 3, I went a little bit later because I was tired. At this point, all of the parking was full anywhere near the convention. And it took me over 2 hours driving in circles trying to find any parking garage. At this point, I was willing to spend any amount, and that's a good thing because I ended up having to park over 10 blocks away and it cost me $80. But there was nothing I could do. At this point, I was in such a bad mood. I missed the panel I was there for. I got in a fight with the person I was with because we were both stressing about having to park the car. And at this point, we just wanted to get out of it and abandon it in the middle of the road. Which is why you should take a Lyft or anything you can. Get a ride with someone else so you have the option to just get dropped off, and if traffic's bad, you can get out and walk. I promise you will save so much money and you will save so much time. If you live far enough that you have to drive, my other suggestion would be park somewhere a little bit outside of the convention center area and then take an Uber from there so it's not as expensive. Tip number 2 is you are going to be walking a lot and it's going to be hot and crowded and uncomfortable. So if possible, make your cosplay something that is comfortable to walk in and be in for a long time. And if it's not, bring a pair of flip-flops or something that's very lightweight and easy to change into, and learn from my mistake. Bring a second change of clothes in case you get so overheated and so overwhelmed that you just need to take a break from your cosplay. Last year, my day 1 cosplay was Fern from Freerin, and that was so overheating and so overstimulating, and I did not have a change of clothes, and the parking situation already happened. I was so far from home. I was so hot that I almost ended up at medical because I needed to be out of that cosplay immediately. If I had a graphic tee with me, I could have easily just switched into that because I was wearing shorts under my cosplay and just taken a 30-minute break just to get some fresh air and get some air circulating, but I didn't, and I couldn't find anybody selling a shirt at the convention. I was like, hello? Tip number 3 is realizing how big this convention really is and how much it has to offer, and understanding you're not going to be able to get to do everything that you want to do. Aww. I was used to going to small conventions before this one, so I thought I'm going to be able to shop, I'm going to be able to take my cosplay pictures, go to the panel, do this, all in one day. I was sorely mistaken and quickly realized that you kind of have to commit yourself to one thing a day and know that that is your one thing you are doing. Now, in no way am I saying that you won't get to enjoy everything you want to, but you need to prioritize and have 1 or 2 things a day that are non-negotiable that you are doing, and then also have backup plans just in case anything falls through. Like I said earlier, the panel that I had missed when I was stuck in the traffic, I had no idea what to do because I just assumed I was going to be able to get into that. I quickly realized that panels usually have a 2 to 3 hour wait to get into, and if you're not in that line by that time, they will cap it and you will not get in. After that, I was just wandering around aimlessly because I didn't have a backup plan, and I just ended up being upset and not knowing what to do because everything was actively happening as I was trying to figure out what to do. What's really helpful is the Anime Expo actually has a schedule app for every single day where you can go through, and if there's something you're interested in, you can add it to your agenda. And this is a really helpful way to see if any of the events you're interested in are going to overlap, if you'll have plenty of free time in between, where they're going to be taking place, which is so big. Please try to look at the maps and get familiar with where everything is before going, because it got to the point that I was asking security where certain buildings were, and they were looking at me like I wasn't speaking English, and I had no idea where anything was, which also made me miss more stuff I wanted to and waste more time than I wanted to. If you click on the description of each panel, it'll tell you if it's going to be featuring any celebrity voice actors, including Japanese ones, which is a really cool experience. And from what I've learned, they usually don't end up airing this anywhere or streaming it anywhere, so the only way you'll really get to see it is if you're there. You will be spending money. I can guarantee that. And if you think you're going to go to this convention and not spend money, you're wrong. You will need to eat, you will need to drink, you will need to buy stuff. I promise you, if you've ever walked around Anime Expo, at least one thing is going to catch your attention. My most helpful tip for that and for budgeting to make sure you don't spend too much money is bringing cash. So usually when you pay with cash, it takes away the sales tax. So if you're buying something from Artist Alley and it's $25, if you have cash, it's $25. You don't get that added tax by paying with card. And with that being said, you have a good idea of seeing how much cash you have left. Of course, if you're like me, if you spend all that cash, you'll start moving on to card and spending there. But at least it helps you save some of that money before you start hitting the card sales tax. Now, don't worry if you're on a budget. There are also a lot of freebies at Anime Expo. Like, too many to handle almost. A lot of the booths tend to hand out free items to try to promote upcoming animes or projects that they're working on, especially Crunchyroll. That is my favorite booth to visit. I don't know if it's every hour or how often they switch it, but they are constantly switching out freebies, whether that be like a keychain or a sticker or a poster, and it's really cool. But on top of that, if you're a Crunchyroll premium user, you can show them your app, and then they have a little claw machine where you can try to win free prizes like plushes and things like that. And if you don't win it the first time, you can literally get out of line, go back in, and go try again. That is so cool. Additional tips and tricks would be bringing a reusable water bottle. One, to make sure that you can stay hydrated, but two, if somebody in your group buys like a soda or something, they can pour some into yours. I like the ones that you can fold really small, so that way it doesn't take up much room in your bag at all. I don't remember how strict they were about snacks, but I would bring a couple granola bars, just something to tide you over, because the convention food is extremely overpriced and tastes exactly like it sounds. Overpriced convention food. Now, I don't care if you're cosplaying or you're not. A couple things you need to bring: deodorant and a fan. I promise no matter who you are, you will need to reapply this for how hot it gets and how stinky it gets in there. And my number one piece of advice would be to make a schedule. And I'm not talking about a loose schedule, I'm talking about an hour by hour one. You don't need to follow it to a T, but it really will help keep you on schedule if you have a general idea of where you need to be and when. The convention is big, and just covering the ground will take you enough time as is, and that doesn't even count the traffic of people stopping or how crowded it can get. And once again, just to remind you, panels usually will fill up really fast, so if you are dedicated to getting into a panel, go line up at least 2 hours before, if not earlier. I'm almost out of time, so here are some rapid fire tips as well. Go to Artist Alley early before things sell out. Don't wait until day 4. I made that mistake. Keep an eye out for celebrities. They're walking around just like you and I. Bring portable chargers. Screenshot your QR code from your social media and keep it as your phone background so it's a lot easier to share your social media when you meet people. Watch walkthrough tutorials on YouTube to get a lay of the land. Do the more complicated cosplays earlier in the weekend. You'll thank me later. Make friends with people. Try new things and be open to whatever will happen. And most importantly, have so much fun! Drop a comment if I missed anything and any tips that you wish you would have known before going to Expo. And since it's quickly approaching, I thought now would be the perfect time to make a video on